Let's do this. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching the show on X __ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 AM. No matter how you're listening, though, it is greatly appreciated as always. Got a nice show lined up. Kevin Potts is going to join the show coming up here at about 2:20. We'll talk draft because that is still the biggest thing going on right now. We'll get a little more specific on what a good season from C.J. Allen and A.J. Halsey are, the Colts' second and third round picks. Of course, it's Tuesday, which means we're going to do Top 10 Tuesday here in about 20 minutes. And, I got more thoughts on Brendan Sorsby. The NCAA is trying to push through a couple. The NCAA is trying to push through a couple new rules. So plenty of things to get into today. 317-228-1430 is the number if you want to call in, talk draft, or anything else. So the Colts spent the 53rd overall pick on C.J. Allen. And this is discussed with every draft, with every player. Situation is so important. And your situation dictates, I think, what should be expected of you. For example, Fernando Mendoza should be expected to do better this season than Carson Beck, second round pick by the Cardinals, who's probably going to get to play a decent amount this year. And it's not just because Mendoza was selected higher, obviously being the number one overall pick, but he's going to a place that has better weapons and a better offensive line than where Carson Beck is going. And so because of that, Fernando Mendoza should be held to higher expectations compared to what Carson Beck is going to be held to. Because when you're playing the ultimate team game, your teammates matter so much. For example, or let's compare it to the NBA draft. Whether the Pacers take Devonta, Boozer, or Peterson, or Caleb Wilson, it doesn't really matter where any of those guys go. The expectation's going to be roughly the same because in basketball, I can just take the ball and go score. Or I can get in a stance and really defend. Whereas football, your teammates matter. And I bring all that up to talk about C.J. Allen and what the expectation should be for him this year. Imagine it's winter. I know it sucks. Nobody likes the winter. Give me the storms we had last night over snow any day of the week. So imagine it's wintertime, and for some reason you have quit your profession and you are now driving an ambulance. And there's a snowstorm in Indiana. And your only goal is to get this patient in the back of your ambulance to the hospital as fast as possible. Now, if you're out there on your own, you're fishtailing, you're getting stuck in drifts, you're slipping and sliding. And so because of that, you're probably going to arrive late. But what if you had a massive state-of-the-art snowplow clearing the lane 20 yards ahead of you? Suddenly, it's a little bit easier. You're not fishtailing. You're not sliding all over the place. You're not fighting the elements. You're just driving at that point. Those snowplows make your job easier. DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, and Colby Wooden. Those are the snowplows of this Indianapolis Colts defense, and they're three of the better ones in the NFL when you look at that unit as a whole. When those guys are eating up double teams, moving 300-pound men off their spots, blowing up blocks, they're clearing a path for the linebackers. Last year, Zaire Franklin was incredibly frustrating to watch because the road was clear. And he got to the ball carrier too late. He wasn't fighting off 330-pound guards at the second level. He was just running straight to the ball carrier. For some reason, he didn't know where the ball carrier was until they were already 5 yards downfield. It's why he only had 5 tackles for loss last year when you remove the sacks. That was what made Zaire Franklin so frustrating to watch. And so a good season for a linebacker is dependent, partially, on who's in front of him. Linebackers that have bad defensive tackles in front of them, that don't eat up blocks and don't blow up double teams and so on, shouldn't have as many tackles for loss as those who do. Again, Grover Stewart, Colby Wooden, DeForest Buckner. Those are 3 good defensive tackles who do a good job of eating up blocks and freeing up those linebackers. It's part of why Zaire Franklin had so many tackles. I just wish more of them had come closer to the line of scrimmage. We just need CJ Allen to make those tackles at or behind the line of scrimmage. When offensive linemen are consistently getting to the second level in the run game, then it should be tougher for your linebackers. But that's not happening against this Colts defense because of those defensive tackles up front. My expectation for CJ Allen this year, who's going to be a green dot guy in the middle of the zone and so on, or in the middle of the defense, excuse me, he should be awesome. He should lead the Colts in tackles for loss this year. Now, Leatu Latu led the Colts last year in tackles for loss with 12, but that number's a little inflated because sacks count as tackles for loss. So that number, again, it's inflated a little bit. Those 8.5 sacks translate as tackles for loss as well. But when you remove sacks from everybody, DeForest Buckner and Zaire Franklin led the Colts with 5 tackles for loss on the year. That's not very many. That's like 1 every 3 games. CJ Allen has to top that number. I think he should flirt with double digits. I'm thinking anywhere from 8 to 10 tackles for loss on the year, minus sacks. I'm sure he'll have a couple because he can really run, and Lou Anarumo likes to dial it up occasionally and let his linebackers go get whoever's throwing the football. It's going to be an incredibly important thing for the Colts this year. CJ Allen has to be a good tackler. He's going to get plenty of opportunities to make plays because of the guys in front of them. And if the Colts want to have a good borderlining on great defense this year, which I do think is in the cards for them, if they can stay healthy, CJ Allen has to make all of those plays. When they're playing Houston and David Montgomery is in the hole, CJ, it's your time to shine, man. Let's go there. So he's going to be extremely important to the Colts. We already know that. And he's going to be important because he's going to be around the football quite a bit. Whereas with A.J. Halsey, Colts' 3rd-round pick this year, it's going to look a little bit different. C.J. Allen's rookie season for the Colts should be loud. I should be getting on here every Monday talking about how C.J. Allen had 12 tackles and 2 of them were tackles for loss. And I should be talking about how he's constantly around the football. And when you go to Lucas Oil this year to watch games, you should hear the popping of the pads when C.J. Allen hits people, and you should hear it often because that's what we expect from linebackers. Safeties are different. A.J. Halsey is stepping into a role that is just fundamentally different from a linebacker like C.J. Allen. C.J.'s the guy you see. He's the front door bouncer at a nightclub where you walk up and you're like, wow, that guy's dressed in all black and he's huge. And he looks at you and says, man, this is a nice club. You can't wear Jordans in here. Go change. Right? C.J. Allen is loud and he's physical and you want to hear him. You should notice him all the time. But Halsey, I want A.J. Halsey to play safety like a high-level Secret Service agent. You know, when you watch a motorcade or a public event, you aren't supposed to notice the guy in the suit and sunglasses. If you're noticing him, it's usually because he's either A, not very good at his job, or B, someone breached the perimeter and he's trying to keep things in order. If we're sitting at home or at Lucas Oil Stadium watching the replay and the announcer is circling Halsey because he took a bad angle or he blew a coverage or he bit on something underneath that he wasn't supposed to bite on, it probably means the Colts end zone got breached. You may be able to ring the bell there. I don't know. Is that border? Okay, all right. I didn't know. It was close.
I didn't have the volume up.
I want Halsey to be invisible for 58 minutes of the game. I don't want us to notice him hardly at all. I want him gliding in the background, keeping the roof on the defense, ensuring that Cam Bynum isn't having to worry about him, isn't having to worry about cleaning up his potential rookie mistakes. Because when Cam Bynum can roam and you give him the opportunity to make plays, he can do that for you. Here's the catch with Halsey, though. The best agents are invisible until there's a threat that they can neutralize. And then they do it and they see it before it even happens. What's a real luxury for the Colts this year is because they have Sauce Gardner and because they have Trevarius Ward on the outside, two absolute lockdown corners when they're playing at their highest levels. Halsey has the luxury of keeping his eyes on the quarterback. He doesn't have to have the most disciplined eyes in the world because even if he bites on something that he's not supposed to, there's a decent chance that Sauce Gardner, Trevarius Ward, or Cam Bynum are going to be able to bail him out. Okay? So what I want from Halsey is for him to be a guy who's hanging out in the shadows all game, right up until he sees a pass that he can jump or a football that he can rip away from a ball carrier. I want to notice him twice a game. Once when I'm looking at the box score after the game, and I see that the Colts gave up 0 plays of 20 yards or more. And once when he's sprinting down the sidelines with an interception in his hands. Okay? That's what I want from A.J. Halsey. Play safety like a secret agent. Stay out of the spotlight and only show up when it's time to change the game. Be unnoticeable until you do something big that shifts the momentum or closes the game out. We've talked about this before with the Colts. They don't have a closer on defense. When you looked at their best teams, or those Peyton Manning teams, you had Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis coming off the edge, wreaking havoc. One of them would have a big sack with like 90 seconds left, and then the other team would look up and be like, oh, crap, it's 2nd and 15. We don't have any timeouts, and they're scrambling, and you know that the game's over in that moment. That happened time and time again. Freeney or Mathis would make the big play. The Colts haven't had anyone, especially on their defense, that has made the big play over the past 5 or 6 years, right? All the years that they haven't made the playoffs. You have to have someone like that. And I'm hoping that A.J. Halsey can have that in him a little bit. Where, maybe he notices that, the quarterback is staring down his targets early in the game. But instead of jumping on a route in the first quarter, he waits until the fourth quarter when it's time to ice the game to then make that play. Hopefully that's the kind of guy that he can be. Obviously, he's going to make tackles and things because the Colts are going to move him around. They'll play him in the box and do some different things like that. So we will see him around the football a little bit because he'll play down. But as Chris Ballard said after the draft, this is a guy who can play all over the field. He can cover deep middle. He can come down into the box and be physical. And I like that Lou Anarumo has a chess piece like that he can try some different concepts with just by moving him around. So very intrigued to see how the Colts use him. But ultimately, I want him to be a guy that really just plays mistake-free football because that's usually when you notice safeties. It's when someone got burned. And that's obviously not what we really want to notice this year. So I think those are pretty fair expectations for a rookie linebacker and a rookie safety. Chris, is that fair? Should I be asking for more? Because I definitely don't think I'm asking too much of them.
I was actually gonna ask you your thoughts on where the Colts defense ranks now among the league. I mean, you kind of like looking at what we have now in this package.
Let me pull up
Would you
a
say
list of all
like
the teams.
maybe not top 10 or maybe top 15? What are
Yeah,
you feeling?
so it's really dependent on CJ Allen and Halsey. Because if they're both good immediately, then I think this could be one of the 10 best defenses in football. I don't think that their defense is going to be better than Philly's. I don't think their defense is going to be better than Cleveland's. I don't think their defense is going to be better than Houston's. I don't think it'll be better than Denver's, even though Denver lost some guys. Um, I'm trying to look through here. I think Tampa's going to have a really good defense as well. But outside of that, maybe New York will kind of see what are or what their pass rush looks like, what's their run defense going to look like without Dexter Lawrence. But outside of those 6 teams, there's no one else that I really look at and think, man, like that defense really sticks out. So I think this is a team that, if CJ Allen and AJ Halsey pan out and play at the level that people are expecting them to, then this could be a top 10 defense pretty easily. Maybe flirt with like top 8, which I know is like, Jonathan, that's only 2 spots higher. That means you have one of you're in like the top 25% of defenses in football if you can crack that top 8. So hopefully they can do that, but it's going to come down to those 2 guys and how they look this year. And obviously health, because like if Sauce Gardner gets hurt and if Ward has another concussion, then that'll obviously make things tougher. But I like where they're at right now. And then, you throw in a little bit of like player development with Tuli Moluau and Latu. Maybe this is the top 5 defense. I'm getting a little greedy.
Yeah, no,
that,
I totally get it. Hopefully it only goes up. And I know you're not super into like fantasy football,
not my thing.
but
Okay, though.
I am whenever that time comes. I don't know if I'm really looking to pick the Colts on my fantasy team unless it's a crazy bye week and everybody's healthy.
Yeah, the fantasy football thing. Can I throw you? This is how I would think about defenses for fantasy for fantasy football. Like you earn points by forcing turnovers. So we'll get into this more as we get closer to when I start doing my my over unders. This is gonna sound insane.
Okay.
I would legitimately consider drafting. I would definitely draft Kansas City's defense because I think that they got better in the draft. But turnovers are they're a luck-based stat. There is nothing that you can do to force more turnovers, because if there was, then everybody would do them and there would be a lot more turnovers. It's a luck thing. It's your defensive end reaches out to tackle the running back and he accidentally hits the ball instead, and then the ball's loose and then your team jumps on it, right? Or, it's the quarterback, is like slightly off and the ball gets tipped up into the air and then your safety comes in for a pick. And so turnovers are a thing that tend to flip from year to year. And so Kansas City was 28th in the NFL in takeaways last year. So I would look at them. Dallas was 30th in the NFL in takeaways last year. And didn't love the pick that they spent on Caleb Downs, but he'll boost that a little bit. So I would look at one of those bottom teams in takeaways. And the Colts are not there. They were 12th last year, pretty middle of the road.
Yeah.
So
it's more of like for me, it's more of like a matchup thing, not who's like on the team. If they're playing, a depleted Colts team without Daniel Jones and Riley Leonard's back there or something, then I'm probably going to pick whatever defense is playing against them that week.
Hey, betting against quarterbacks, I like that too, man. That's, even though what's really weird is like in fantasy football, that makes a ton of sense. But the last 2 years, when it comes to like, making real bets on football, betting on backup quarterbacks, because everyone overreacts. They're like, oh, Riley Leonard's playing. The Colts are going to be terrible. And then the Colts hand the football off 40 times, and it doesn't really matter. Right? So, yeah, listen to me. The worst sports gambler ever, by the way. It's been rough here as of late, but that's okay. We're having fun. So that's all that matters, right? It is Tuesday, which means we're doing top 10 Tuesday. This Tuesday is gonna look a little bit different. Everyone's doing draft grades right now. We're gonna have Kevin Potts on at 2:20, and we'll do that kind of, but not really, because the draft grade thing is kind of dumb. I don't know. I'll kind of explain it a little bit more whenever we get closer. But for Top 10 Tuesday, I'm gonna give you 5 of the best draft picks that I thought transpired, and 5 of the worst draft picks that I thought transpired. And we will do that coming up here in about 3 minutes. Life can feel overwhelming sometimes, and sometimes all your body needs is a quiet moment in a cozy, calming place. Salty Woods in Greenwood offers salt therapy, also known as halotherapy, a natural drug-free wellness practice that mimics the microclimate of salt caves. We've got a special deal for you only while they last, starting Friday at 9 a.m. Go to indiesportsticket.com and click on the Sweet Deals tab to get 2 seats in the Salt Room for half off. That is a $70 value, yours for just $35.
It may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. It's Tuesday, which means we're doing Top 10 Tuesday. And guess what? After weeks of saying that we need a sounder and then proceeding to not make a sounder, I finally made one. Let's get into Top 10 Tuesday.
Top 10 Tuesday!
I feel like I should start rapping.
Hey, you should totally freestyle on Tuesdays.
Yeah, every Tuesday.
Let's hear it. Make a song about running.
About running. Dude. It's bad, man. Like I'm supposed to run 2 miles today, which is not very far. I don't want to do it, man. I don't want to do it at all. I just want to go home. It's been a lot of time on the heating pad the past couple of days for my lower back, dude. Just not great. But hey, we'll run two miles today, and I will say I am proud of myself because 6 months ago, if I'd have said I'm going to go run 2 miles, it would not have been followed by the words, "That's not very far." You know what I mean? So, it's that makes me feel good. But anyway, all right. Top 10 Tuesday. So I split it up here. We're going to alternate back and forth between good picks and bad picks. So I'll give you 5 good and 5 bad draft picks. Starting here at number 10. Good pick. Ruben Bain went 15th to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is part of why I really like what their defense could be this year. I mean, this guy, Ruben Bain's going to come in and just wreak havoc immediately alongside Vita Vea and Ashawn Robinson. They are going to get after the quarterback in every way, shape, and form. The Buccaneers love to blitz as well. They're usually one of the better teams at it this year, or year in and year out under Todd Bowles. So love that pick. It might be my favorite pick. It might be. We'll see. But number 9, bad pick, Ty Simpson to the Rams. Ty Simpson may work out as an NFL quarterback. I've been pretty vocal on how I don't think that he is. But ultimately, when you're good enough to win a Super Bowl and you have the 13th overall pick, you don't spend it on some guy who's not going to see the field for 3 years. Like, you could have drafted your quarterback of the future next year or the year after that, because Matthew Stafford just won the freaking MVP of the league. I don't think that his decline is going to be very sudden. Maybe it will be, but didn't like that pick. Number 8, good pick here. Orville Reese to the Giants. I really liked their draft as a whole, but I mean, they got a guy who could potentially end up being the best player in this draft with the 5th overall pick. I mean, that's always a win. He's also a guy who can just do a lot of different things. And this is just a signal of how sports have changed. And I don't even think this is just a football thing only. I think we see this in basketball and in baseball as well. Orville Reese can play weak side linebacker, or he can line up at edge. 2 decades ago, he would have been called a tweener, and nobody would have wanted him. Now, it's like, this guy could be the best guy in the draft. He can do multiple things for you. Mookie Betts is really valuable to the Dodgers because he can play any of the 3 spots in the outfield. He can play shortstop. He can also play second base. Okay, in basketball, if you were a point guard who could score, that wasn't a good thing because it's like, what are you? You a point guard or are you a shooting guard? Oh, now you're just awesome. That's what you are now, and that's kind of how I feel about Orville Reese. He's a nice little chess piece that they should be able to move around and do a lot of different things with. Bad pick. Carson Beck to the Cardinals. Arizona. You had an awful draft. I hated it. You spent the 3rd overall pick on Jeremiah Love. So now you're paying a running back $56 million. That's just, that's obviously over the course of his contract. That is by far the most expensive contract for any running back in football. Hated that pick. And then you take Carson Beck, a decently armed, but not very athletic, kind of stiff quarterback who makes bad decisions. Now, the big brain take here, the galaxy take, is the Arizona Cardinals want to have the number 1 overall pick next year. So they drafted Carson Beck to make sure that happens. I don't think that's why they did it. That's why I have it down as a bad pick. Next good pick. Caden McDonald to the Texans. That dude's just like a walking beanbag chair. If the beanbag chair had boulders in it instead of like the little peanuts. That dude's just a rock who's going to plug everything that runs up the middle against that defense, and they are going to bully teams. I liked the Texans draft because their approach was so obvious. They wanted to get more physical on both sides of the football and become less C.J. Stroud dependent. So Caden McDonald is only going to make that Texans defense better, right? They signed an offensive guard in free agency. They used their first-round pick on Rutledge, big offensive guard out of Georgia Tech. They brought in David Montgomery. Like, C.J. Stroud is going to throw the football 14 times a game next year. That's a little hyperbolic, but you see where I'm going with this. He is not going to be the reason that they win or lose games. They're going to do what they can to take the game out of his hands, rely on that defense, and run the football. Great pick, Caden McDonald to the Texans. Number 5, bad pick. Nate Borkesher to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They took a backup tight end in the second round, a guy that a lot of people had as like the 5th or 6th best tight end in this draft class. Here's the thing. Everybody's board is different, but there is a consensus board. And consensus said that Nate Borkesher was a day 3 pick. I think that the consensus board is a lot like the law, where, if you occasionally break the law in like a minor way, like you go over the speed limit or something like that, it's not a big deal if you do it occasionally. The Jags did that a lot in this draft, and it's why people think that they didn't draft very well. We'll kind of see what happens going forward. Good pick, Peter Woods to the Chiefs. Chris Jones is getting old. I think that you could see it last year, just the deterioration of his play. Peter Woods has top 5 talent. If you rewind 365 days, Peter Woods was a projected top 5 pick in this draft at that time. He just had a bad year at Clemson, like everyone else at Clemson. And so this is a guy who has a lot of upside. There's a ton of value there for Kansas City at that position, and it's a position that they desperately needed. Number 3, bad pick. Caleb Downs to the Cowboys. I'm the only one who thinks this, and that is okay. I'm just never going to be a fan of trading up for a safety when you need a corner and an edge rusher. Because, again, I feel like I've said this 1,000 times in the month that I've been on the air. Drafting is like grocery shopping. You go get what you need. You don't worry about deals. Okay? Just go get what you need so you can go home and make dinner and have a nice evening. Okay? Don't walk through the door with black licorice, cookie dough, and pasta noodles because all of that was on sale. Your wife is not going to be happy with you. And that is exactly what the Cowboys did by trading up to go get Caleb Downs. Okay? Number 2, last good pick here. The more I think about it, the more I like the Deion Burks pick by the Colts. If there is a 7th round player this year that hits, it's probably going to be Deion Burks. I think he's just too athletic to not have a chance in the NFL. I don't care that he's undersized. I think of him in a very similar vein that I think of D'Angelo Pons. D'Angelo Pons is so athletic that no one cares that he's undersized. That is how I feel about Deion Burks. Some of the injury stuff, that is concerning. I think that's part of why he fell, the size and the injuries. But that dude is tough. That dude is physical. And he's electric when he gets the football. Finally, the final bad pick of the 2026 NFL Draft. Marlon Klein to the Texans. Another tight end. They took him on day 2. You got Dalton Schultz. You just signed Foster Moreau in the offseason in free agency. Now, they could run a lot of 13 personnel this year. That is 1 running back, 3 tight ends for those who don't know ball. And maybe that's their plan. I said it earlier. It seems like they're going to do what they can to take the game out of C.J. Stroud's hands. Okay? maybe 13 personnel is a way for them to do that, to turn around and hand it off to David Montgomery. Even if they do that, still won't justify it. Like you don't use a day 2 pick on your third string tight end. Like that's a little insane, especially when you can find a guy on day 3 who could do that. Then again, the Jaguars were big into taking day 3 tight ends on day 2. So maybe Houston did the right thing. That is my top 10 Tuesday, 5 good and 5 bad picks from the NFL draft. We'll talk a little bit more about it coming up at 2:20 with Kevin Potts when he joins the show. Can't wait to have him on. We are actually going to draft NFL drafts. Chris is looking at me like I'm crazy. It's because I said draft 3 times.
How are you going to draft a draft, man?
So we're just picking our favorite drafts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like by teams?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Not
Yeah,
by
we're
like
drafting
years.
teams drafts.
We're going to be here for a while.
Yeah. I mean, we could draft like the best draft classes of all time.
Sure.
With the number 1 overall pick, I would like to take the 1947 NFL draft where Charlie Trippy went number 1 overall.
That's fair.
Maybe. That's fair. You don't even know who Charlie Trippy is.
I don't. I'm going to sit here and pretend that I don't have a good poker
hey,
face.
You're getting it, man. That's what radio is. So, like, hey, have you heard about the 4th string center at Sacktown State?
No.
Yeah, man. Really like this tape. 4th string for a reason, but he's got good feet.
Okay.
You just throw it out there, man. He open sticks.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of throwing it out there, that's what Brendan Sorsby was doing on his FanDuel app. Betting it up, throwing out every bet that he can think of. He broke the internet yesterday when it was reported that he checked himself into a residential treatment program for his gambling addiction. I talked about it a little bit, went home, noodled on it a little bit more while I was hiding out in my bathroom with that tornado that came through last night. Nice. And and there's something else coming. I'm going to tell you how I know that in 3 minutes.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, YouTube, X, the Indy Sports Ticket app, 1430 AM. So many ways to listen. There's really no excuse not to. So yesterday, the news broke that Brendan Sorsby checked himself into a residential treatment program for his gambling addiction. He has made thousands of sports bets, including betting on Indiana, which who would ever do that? In 2022, that's why I said that. This is pre-Signetti. Who would bet on Indiana to win in 2022? Insane. The important part of that, he was on the team. When he decided to do that, that is obviously a big no-no. Based on the NCAA team's rules, there is a chance that he isn't allowed to play college football this year. I would say there's a pretty big chance that he's not allowed to play this year. We'll see, what the ruling on that ends up being. I'm glad that he's getting help, but there has to be so much more to this story. This feels like the ultimate preemptive strike. I want you to think back to when you were a kid. You're playing ball in the house when you know you're not supposed to. And your brother throws one middle in, and your eyes light up, and you jump all over that pitch, and you crush it. And when it hits the barrel, you're feeling great. And then you see the ball rocket into your mom's favorite vase, and it falls, and it hits the floor, and it shatters. And you have 10 minutes until she gets home. You have two options. You can sweep up the vase, throw away those little shards, and hope your mom doesn't realize it. I'm telling you right now, she will. Or you can meet her at the door, say, "Mom, I'm so sorry. I completely ignored you and decided to play ball in the house. And my brother, Caleb, he hung a slider middle in and I crushed it right into your vase, Mom. I'm so sorry. I feel terrible." Okay? And then if you do that, you're hoping that honesty saves you from, for me, what would have been a major spanking. That's how we grew up in the household. If you did something wrong, my mom would grab the belt and she would just beat you. That's the way it was. And I didn't get in trouble very often because of that. And I think Sorsby is meeting the NCAA at the front door. This dude has made thousands of bets. One of the stories that has come out since this has happened is we're hearing about these like $2 bets that he was making at Reds games, betting on all these different pitches and things. But guys, this dude has signed multiple lucrative NIL deals at Cincinnati and Texas Tech that doesn't include all of the extra endorsements that he's probably signed on to and is planning on doing. Okay? But here's the thing. I'm waiting for like this big bomb to drop because you don't check into a residential facility seeking help over a few $1.50 parlays on the Cincinnati Reds. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for the storyline, to scroll across the bottom ticker at ESPN. That's like, Brendan Sorsby places $2,000 bet on Cincinnati to lose to Nebraska last year, or something on that, something like that. Okay, because certainly all of his bets weren't him going to Reds games. I mean, I don't think anyone wants to go to that many Reds games, especially last year. But something that actually compromises the game. I think he's trying to get in front of it. He's trying to smother the grease fire before the whole kitchen burns down. But I have a feeling the smoke hasn't cleared quite yet, especially as they start to dig into all of these bets. Chris, did you ever break something of your mother's and have to tell her about it?
Yes, but I blamed it on the cat. I said the
Nice.
cat knocked it over, but you know who's still got the
I
paddle.
was gonna ask. There's no way she fell for that, right?
No.
Okay, I'm
I have
making
a
sure.
we mentioned this earlier. I have a horrible poker face. I cannot lie very well.
Okay, fair enough. I punched a hole in the wall.
Why would you do that?
My brother made me mad.
Oh,
That's you know, it happens. I was probably like 15. We were getting ready to go to school in the morning, and he was yelling at me, and and instead of punching him, I punched the wall. And to solve the issue, my mom really likes to paint. She's a really good artist, and she used to paint campuses. And so over where there's this hole in the wall from where I threw a right hook, there's like this canvas that said something like, "In this house, we pray for one another," or something like that. It was funny.
did you cover it up or did you punch that sign? Or you just punched the wall?
I hit the wall, and then the painting went up,
I
and
guess
then we fixed it later. So
I see.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I'll never forget doing that. But I'm telling you, something else is gonna drop on this Sorsby story. IU fan saying, "Mom always said don't play ball in the house." She did, but I didn't always listen. You know, so it happens sometimes. Um, yeah, something else is gonna come out of this certainly. Like I doubt that all of his bets are for $1.50 or whatever. I just there's no way. So, in addition to that story going on right now with the NCAA, we also have I think it's called I think the official title of it is like the 5-and-5 rule. Basically, the NCAA is trying to introduce some new eligibility rules. A while ago, it was proposed that everyone would get 5 years, and that was it. No red shirts, no med reds, no gray shirts, no COVID years, or anything like that. There is a real effort to keep 27-year-olds away from college sports. And I'm here for it. I don't mind the rule. There are probably some better solutions available, but this seems to be what they're going with. And I'm not going to complain about it. I think part of why they're going this route is the reason why all these guys can get waivers now is because of the red shirt rules and because of the med red rules and all of those kinds of things. And so by eliminating all of that, you're not getting taken to court by every collegiate athlete in the country begging for one more year of NIL money. So I don't blame them at all for going this way. It's really just an effort to stay out of court against all of these athletes. Now, that is not the part of the proposal that I like. Here's the part of the proposal that I like. You now have to prove, if this passes, you now have to prove that you didn't tamper. I am a big believer in the American belief that you are innocent until proven guilty. But tampering is one of those things where I believe that you are guilty until proven innocent. That's just the way that college sports have gone. Everyone is being accused of tampering. I'm sure everybody is tampering. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I don't know how you prove that you didn't tamper. I guess you would show them insufficient evidence. It's like I don't know if this has ever happened to anybody, but if you go on DoorDash and you order food and your food doesn't show up, even when it says that it's been delivered, DoorDash will send you a message like, "Can you please prove that your food wasn't delivered?" It's like, my brother, how do you expect for me to do that? You just want me to take a photo of my doorstep with nothing on it?
Here's my mouth. It is empty.
Yeah, it is empty. Here's my belly. Can you here's a video of my stomach growling. Okay? So I don't know how you prove that you didn't do something, but I'm sure that people way smarter than me will figure that out. Okay? So this feels like a step in the right direction for college sports. We'll see if it holds up or not. The other thing happening with college sports is less and less guys are trying to go pro early. Okay, this year we have had the fewest NBA draft early entrants since 2003, and we've seen these reports of NFL general managers talking about how there's no one really left on day 3 of the draft that they're super interested in. So this year there have only been 71 early entries into the NBA draft. Let me debunk something real quick. I've seen many people talk about how this is bad for the NBA, and that's just insane. That's just a dumb thing to say. This has little to no impact on the NBA. All of the big time NBA ready prospects are still coming out. If AJ DeBonsa was going back to school and you wanted to say that it was bad for the NBA, totally fair take. But DeBonsa and Peterson and Boozer and Caleb Wilson and Darius Acuff and keep working down the line of all the freshmen that are going to be top 10 picks, they all declared. That's really all that matters to the NBA. And in the long run, this is good news for the NBA for two reasons. One, players drafted going forward will either be super talented 18-year-olds who are ready for the NBA or developed 22-year-olds. It's a good thing for the NBA. Everyone will be drafting either a super talented player or someone who knows how to play basketball. You're going to have rookies come into the league who just show up and start shooting, 38% from three because they've spent 4 years in college working on that skill already. So I think this is going to lead to NBA players being better. It's also good for the NBA because players will now have bigger reputations coming into the NBA. People that follow women's basketball have a relationship with the players when they get drafted because they see them at South Carolina for 4 years or they see them at UConn for 4 years or, whatever it ends up being. This hasn't been a thing in the NBA for a long time now. And going forward, it will be. This is obviously a good thing for college basketball. It only makes the game better. Not only do you have professionals in other countries coming over to play. Shout out to John Calipari for landing the big 7-foot power forward, nicknamed Slim Jesus. Yeah, I know, right? Dope nickname. The only thing that made it better is Kentucky fans thought that they were going to get him. He was like, psych. Let's go play for Cal. But remember, everyone wants to play for Kentucky. It's all about the brand. Meanwhile, they have like the 85th ranked college basketball recruiting class in the country. So anyway, this is obviously a good thing for college basketball, these guys staying longer. Not only do you have professionals in other countries coming over, but you now have players like Braylon Mullins, a guy who probably would have been drafted anywhere between like 13th and 18th this year. He's coming back. He would have been a middle first-round pick. That is no longer. He's going to come back to school for another year. And if he wants, he can come out next year and maybe be a top 10 pick if he improves enough. So I think this is great all around for both schools or for both leagues, both the NBA and college basketball. Speaking of college basketball, Ty Stokes, he's the number one ranked player in college basketball. He's either the number one ranked player in college basketball or he's the highest ranked player left that hasn't committed anywhere yet. He's either going to Kentucky or Kansas. Man, I hope it's Kansas. I hope he goes to Kansas. I want to see Kentucky suffer every year. It like Arkansas could lose every game, but if Kentucky misses the NCAA tournament, I would be okay. I can be a little petty whenever it comes to my sports, but hey, it's all right. It happens sometimes. Speaking of sports, this is a sports show. The NBA playoffs are going on right now. I've got some rapid fire takes that I'm going to get off about the NBA playoffs at 1:00.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Hour number 2 of the Real Jonathan Smith Show is getting underway right now. Thank you for tuning into the show. No matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching the show on X, __ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 AM if you're driving around the Indianapolis area. All right. Oh, never mind. That's not news. But sometimes my phone buzzes and like I don't use the ESPN app for my news. I just have like Twitter notifications turned on for all the big reporters. And I thought we had breaking news. We don't. So, all right. The NBA playoffs, they're in full swing. We got 3 games tonight. Sixers, Celtics, Hawks, Knicks, game 5, series tied 2-2. I mean, let's go Hawks, right? I don't think there's any question about that. And then tonight, the nightcap, we got Blazers and Spurs. Before I get into my 8 takes on every series, NBC, I need you to do me a favor. Can we not start the late game at 10:30? Can we take like a little nod here from ESPN and maybe start the late game at 9:30 instead? Like, I don't know how much you paid attention last night, Chris, but last night the Magic, East Coast time, they're hosting the Pistons. Their game started at 8 p.m. Eastern. Like that game should have started at 7. And then the Phoenix Suns game, way out west, started at 9, which is fine. That's like that is a good start time for a game in Phoenix. But oh my gosh. But the Nuggets game, which is a full time zone over, a full, hour ahead of Phoenix, that game started at 10:30. I feel like those should have been switched. Just saying. It bothered me. I hated that last night. Anyway. 8 quick takes on the NBA playoffs. Really 9, because I think that NBC one counts. All right, the Magic have an excellent chance to bounce the Pistons. They are up 3-1 in that series. The Pistons desperately need a secondary ball handler outside of Cade Cunningham. Jalen Duren costing himself a lot of money. He's also all over the internet. Chris, I don't know if you saw it. Dunk of the playoffs happened last night.
You say the dunk of the playoffs?
Jamal Cain comes down the floor, and it's like old school. Jalen Duren goes up to meet him, and Jamal Cain just kept going up, and he punched on him. It was incredible. You can probably find it really, really quickly. So not only is Jalen Duren costing himself a ton of money in this series because he's just not playing very well, he's also going to be on the internet forever. So the Magic, that's a really good team that finally got healthy. It happens sometimes, so they are going to advance. I really wouldn't be surprised if they ended up in the Eastern Conference Finals, because they're going to get the winner of Cleveland and Toronto, and neither one of those teams have been very impressive. The Cavaliers have been incredibly underwhelming. I mean, they lost a rock fight in Game 4 where both teams scored less than 40 points in the first half. How do you score less than 40 points in a half when you have Donovan Mitchell and James Harden? The answer is you're playing in the playoffs and you have James Harden on your team. That dude just, that dude's an absolute stud of a magician, the way that he disappears in April. Kind of insane. So they've been really underwhelming. Evan Mobley has not panned out. Evan Mobley's just like a nice player. He wasn't a franchise-altering guy like people kind of thought that he may be when he was picked third overall a few years ago. The Knicks got home court back, but they are not out of the woods quite yet. The Hawks just had a bad shooting game in Game 4. Jonathan Kuminga played poorly. Jonathan Kuminga showed all of the reasons why the Warriors got rid of him in Game 4. Just bad decisions, turnovers, didn't play good defense. Wasn't good. But look, there are moments watching the Knicks in the playoffs where I feel like it's a disadvantage to be the Knicks because everyone wants to play well in Madison Square Garden. Like when you're playing at MSG, you always get everyone's absolute best shot because so many legends have had these like legendary games there. Whether it's Reggie Miller, 8 points in 9 seconds. Whether it's Halliburton last year with the big weird game tying shot, the Reggie Miller choke sign after Michael Jordan, the image of him dunking on Patrick Ewing in 91, 92, if I remember correctly. Like that lives on forever. And so because it is such a magical place, everyone looks forward to playing there. So sometimes I wonder if that's a disadvantage for New York. And if it is, I say good. The Celtics only dropped one game to the 76ers because they shot poorly. Pretty sure that they're going to mop them up tonight. They are 11.5-point favorites. Look, as long as the Celtics don't shoot poorly, they're good enough to beat anybody. Just long, athletic. They defend at a really high level. If Derek White ever remembers how to shoot, watch out for Boston. The Lakers are playing well, but no Kevin Durant for the Rockets is why they're going to win that series. The Rockets win game 4 without Kevin Durant. Probably should have won game 3 as well, but hey, it's fine. Lakers are probably going to win game 5, and that'll be that. Even if Kevin Durant does play, that series over. That series is over, so I don't really expect to see Kevin Durant out on the floor for any of these games. So, really. So, yeah. The Lakers, their game's tomorrow night, if I remember correctly. Yep, it's tomorrow night, and I expect for them to finish off the Houston Rockets in game 5. For the Thunder and Phoenix Suns series, I don't have much to say other than suspend Lou Dort. Like that guy's just a menace, man. Like he's tripping people and undercutting guys. At some point, I'm kind of waiting on the league to step in and be like, "Hey, Lou, maybe don't damage the product," because that's what happens whenever you hurt star players. You damage the overall product, and so. Not a fan of Lou Dort. I don't think anyone really is outside of Oklahoma City. And then on top of that, you've got Jalen Williams, who has a grade 1 hamstring pull. Probably not going to see him for a while. Those injuries are kind of tough. Maybe he gets back for the Western Conference Finals, that they send him to Europe like the Lakers did Luka. Maybe he gets back. We'll see. That's obviously something to monitor as well. The Nuggets have been the most disappointing team in the playoffs, but they're going to catch a break because Naz Reid sprained his ankle pretty good last night. Anthony Edwards is out for at least 2 weeks after hyperextending his knee, and Dante DiVincenzo tore his Achilles. Now, the Nuggets were down 3-1. Now they're down 3-2 after winning last night. It's a real possibility that, in one of these next 2 games, we see, we see the Wolves have a night where they just shoot, 40% from 3, and the Nuggets can't overcome it. But it looks like they're going to catch a break. So congratulations to them. And then final series here. The Spurs look good. The Spurs may end up in the finals just because of injuries. Like the Wolves were probably going to beat the Nuggets, but then everybody got hurt. That's who they're probably going to play Denver in round 2. We'll see how all that pans out. But even then, like Aaron Gordon's hurt right now, so that's not great. And then you've got obviously Jalen Williams with the Thunder. He's hurt. Will he be back for the Western Conference Finals where they'll probably meet the Spurs? We'll see. So if they can just stay healthy, if Victor Wembanyama can avoid collapsing to the floor, that would probably be nice. So those are my very quick 8 takes on the NBA playoffs so far. Chris, I have a question.
Sure.
Do we still have the text line?
I think so, but I never had access to it. It was only Dan that looked over that. I don't know if it still exists or not.
It's like Text Groove, right?
Sure.
I think. Let me see if I can find it. I know that we have it, Otter Creek. Let me just see if
Did you happen to see the video of the Nuggets mascot throwing the behind the back on top of like this crazy ladder thing last
Yeah.
night? That was insane.
It was insane. And then Grant Hill tried to dap him up afterwards, and the mascot was like, "Nah, man, I'm cool."
Well, pass.
Some of those, man, some of those mascots are kind of crazy with some of the stuff they do. Like I'm assuming that you've been to a Pacer game and you've seen, I forget the name of the mascot for them, but
Boomer?
Boomer. Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to type and talk to you. I have to reset my password so I can see this.
Multitasking here.
Yeah, really, really tough to do. You know, it drives my wife crazy. Like when I'm at home for some reason, I can do it. I can listen to her talk while I scroll on my phone. She doesn't really like that, but hey, you know, that's fine.
You're just like,
Otter Creek, we now still have the text line. I just logged into it. Geez, man. Text line has not been checked. When do you think the last time the text line was checked?
Probably when Dan was here about 28 days ago.
March 19th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So let me go through all of these. Geez. So now, if you want to text the show, 317-228-1430. That is the text line. You can also call in at that number, 317-228-1430. I am open to questions. If you have takes on the draft, takes on the Colts, Pacers. Speaking of Pacers, I mean, we've got the lottery. It's not far away at all. So, I mean, yeah, questions about that. I'll take, you know, whatever you send my way. I don't have names on the text line, so if you send me a text, I'm not gonna know who you are. Sorry. So whoever texted testing 123, shout out to you. That's kind of funny. I don't mind that. So actually, I think I may know who that is. That's kind of crazy. Anyway, let's get back on track here. We have a text line. I will do my best to remember to check it. No promises, though. All right, so the Colts, solid draft. We're going to have my guy, Kevin Potts, on coming up here in about an hour, and we're going to talk Colts draft. We'll talk about the draft as a whole as well. And every draft is different, which is obviously true. But whenever I say that, I mean the situation that you are in is different. And I know everyone gives Ballard a really hard time for everything that he does. With that being said, I thought he had a really nice draft when you look at where he started. Like, to come out of the draft with two players who should be able to impact your team immediately at important positions on defense when you don't have a first-round pick, that's a really nice thing. To land some guys late as well who may or may not have, you know, some really nice upside who can maybe help you down the line. That's a really nice thing to have as well. I know I wish that they would have found a way to go out and find some sort of edge rusher. But here's the thing. Yesterday, I talked about how nice it is that there are still some good free agents out there, right? Like you could go sign a Jawan Jennings or anybody like that, right? In addition to that, there are some decent edge rushers still available as well. You can go sign Joey Bosa. He's 31. He's dealt with some injuries, but he's also been to 5 Pro Bowls. Like that's a guy who could come in and kind of bolster the edge rushing room for the Colts. Jadeveon Clowney played for the Cowboys last year, a little bit older, 33 years old. That is still a guy, though, who could come in for the Colts and immediately help them. Okay, Calais Campbell, I know he's 40, but for some reason he just keeps playing football and he keeps playing well. It's kind of nuts. Like that is the LeBron James of the NFL in some ways, just given how long he's played. Although one could argue Calais Campbell didn't have a kid as early as LeBron did. So maybe he's not the the LeBron James of the NFL. You could go get Von Miller. again, another older guy at 37. Cameron Jordan is available as well. So there are some edge rushers that or AJ Epineza, another edge rusher who played for the Bills last year. So like there are guys out there to kind of help address that edge rushing room for the Colts. The question is, who are they going to go get? The Colts still have a decent amount of cap space left. They should hopefully be able to find a guy to bring in on like a 1-year deal, whether that is Jadeveon Clowney or Joey Bosa. They could go get a wide receiver as well. Hopefully it's Jawan Jennings. Could also be Stephon Diggs or somebody like that. So I know that we're disappointed, maybe frustrated with the fact that Chris Ballard wasn't able to go out and get an edge rusher or a wide receiver. With that being said, there are guys on the free agent market available for them to go get to kind of help address those needs. We just need Chris Ballard to go and actually do it now. So we'll see what he winds up doing, but there's still room for improvement on this roster, and there are guys available to make those improvements. But right now, we're excited about CJ Allen. We're excited about AJ Halsey, and expectations are really important. Expectations impact how we feel about somebody. Like whenever I go see a movie, I try to watch as few trailers as possible. When Doomsday happens this year, so when Avengers Doomsday and Dune Part 3 come out, like I'm watching as few trailers as possible. I want no expectations. That way it's more likely that I enjoy the movie. Because if you have really high expectations for something and the movie or the food or whatever it is fails to meet those expectations, you leave disappointed. So having proper expectations is important. We're going to talk about those.
That's why I say to my dates,
Yeah,
I'm gonna need you to lower your expectations.
Yeah, seriously. I don't know what you think is going to happen tonight, but lower your expectations, okay? I'm not let me stop before I say something really really bad. But yeah, lower the expectations. We're going to talk about proper expectations for CJ Allen and AJ Halsey in about 3 minutes. Life can feel overwhelming sometimes, and all your body needs in those moments is a quiet moment and a cozy, calming place. Salty Woods in Greenwood offers salt therapy, also known as halo therapy, a natural, drug-free wellness practice that mimics the microclimate of salt caves. We've got a special deal for you only while they last, starting Friday at 9 a.m. Go to indiesportsticket.com and click on the Sweet Deals tab to get 2 seats in the Salt Room for half off. That is a $70 value, yours for just $35.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, X, the Indy Sports Ticket app, 14:30 a.m., whatever it is. It is greatly appreciated that you would take time out of your day to listen to me ramble for 3 hours about sports. I don't know if it's rambling. It's very meticulously thought out. And last night, by the way, if you live in the Greenwood, southern Indianapolis area, I hope you're okay. For those who didn't hear, we had some tornado warnings. I was laying down on my couch last night, locked into some Nuggets and Timberwolves. And because I used my parents' YouTube TV, it didn't get cut off and I wasn't forced to watch the weather. So my awakening was my phone alarm going off, screaming at me.
Yeah.
And so it woke my wife up. So we went and we sat in the bathroom for 20 minutes. And I was like, I think we're okay. And then I went back out and continued watching hoops. But while I was in the bathroom, it's where I do some of my best thinking. I was thinking about CJ Allen. What would be a good season for him? Now, situation matters for everybody. And your situation dictates what should be expected of you. Like Fernando Mendoza, the expectations for him should be significantly higher than the expectations for Carson Beck. And not only because Fernando Mendoza was the number 1 overall pick and Beck wasn't taken until day 2, but it's also because Fernando Mendoza, I think, is stepping into a better situation than what Carson Beck is stepping into. Fernando Mendoza is going to have a plethora of weapons. The Raiders invested in the offensive line during free agency. So he's going to have a better offensive line and better weapons compared to Carson Beck with him going to Arizona. And all the Notre Dame fans are yelling right now, Jonathan, what about Jeremiah Love? Great. You got 1 running back. I would rather have Ashton Jeanty than Jeremiah Love. That's going to ruffle some feathers, but that's okay. When you're playing the ultimate team game, my ultimate point here is that your teammates matter. And they have a role in the amount of success that you have on the football field. Okay? You are dependent on everybody else because everybody else is either going to make your life easier or they're going to make your life harder. Imagine you're an ambulance driver trying to save the life of someone in the middle of a massive Indiana blizzard. We don't get blizzards, but we usually have 1 good snow a year. So imagine you're an ambulance driver in that setting, right? Snow's coming down. There's 5 inches of it. The roads are wet and slippery. And amidst all of this weather chaos, your only goal is to get the patient to the hospital as fast as you can. Now, if you're out there on your own, battling the conditions and you're fishtailing on ice and you're getting stuck in drifts and you're slipping and you're sliding, you're probably going to be late. But what if you have a massive state-of-the-art snowplow clearing the snow on the road 20 yards ahead of you? Suddenly, you're not sliding as much. You're not fighting the elements as much as you were beforehand. You're just driving. Those snowplows make your job easier. DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, and Colby Wooden are, I think you could argue, one of the best groups of snowplows in the NFL. Okay, when those big defensive tackles are up front, taking on double teams, moving 300-pound men off their spots, blowing up blocks, they are clearing a path for the linebackers. Last year, Zaire Franklin was frustrating to watch because the road was clear. Buckner and, Adetomiwa Adebawore and Eric Johnson and Grover Stewart, they were doing their job. They were eating up blocks. And for some reason, Zaire Franklin still couldn't find the ball carrier. The road was clear. Zaire Franklin just couldn't figure out where he was supposed to go. It took him too long to diagnose what was happening in front of him. Okay, he wasn't fighting off 330-pound guards at the second level. He had a pretty clear path to just go get the ball carrier And for some reason, despite those defensive tackles making life easier for him, he only had 5 tackles for loss when you remove the sacks, right? Because sacks count as tackles for loss. That's why he was so frustrating to watch. A good season for a linebacker is partially dependent on who's in front of him. Linebackers that are playing behind bad defensive tackles that don't eat up blocks the way that they shouldn't have as many tackles for loss as those who do. Again, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Colby Wooden. Those are 3 good defensive tackles who do a great job of eating up blocks so that these linebackers can roam free and, the Nick Crosses of the world can come down and make plays at or behind the line of scrimmage. Again, that was the frustrating part of Zaire Franklin. He had a lot of tackles, just, 7 yards downfield. We just need C.J. Allen to make those tackles closer to the line of scrimmage or, preferably, behind the line of scrimmage. When offensive linemen are not consistently getting to the second level in the run game, then it should be easier for your linebackers. They should be more impactful. You should notice them more often. I think C.J. Allen should lead the Colts in tackles for loss this year. Leatu Latu led the Colts last year with 12 tackles for loss. But sacks count towards that total. Okay? So that number is inflated a little bit for defensive linemen who get to pin their ears back and go rush the passer. When you remove sacks, DeForest Buckner and Zaire Franklin led the Colts with 5 tackles for loss. That is a pitiful number. Like 1 tackle for loss every 3 games. No wonder the Colts let Zaire Franklin walk. C.J. Allen has to top that number. I think C.J. Allen should flirt with double digits. I'm thinking 8 to 10 tackles for loss minus the sacks. Okay, look, I'm sure he'll have a couple of sacks because Lou Anarumo, he likes to dial it up on occasion and let his linebackers, pin their ears back and go find the quarterback. But it's going to be such an important thing for the Colts this year, C.J. Allen's ability to make plays around the line of scrimmage. He has to be a good tackler. He's going to get a ton of opportunities to make plays because the defensive tackles in front of him are going to continue to do a good job of eating up the blocks in front of him. And if the Colts want to have a chance to have a good defense this year, then he has to be able to step in and make those plays. If he doesn't, then it'll look like, it'll look a lot like the defense that we've seen the past couple of years from the Colts. Whether that's, bad run defense on first and second down and then, a decent secondary because that's what the Colts had last year. We'll kind of see how it all shakes out here, but he's got to be good in order for the Colts to succeed defensively. And I think that he will be. We'll see if it actually happens or not. But, again, we will see. The other guy who's really important to the Colts is A.J. Halsey, the third-round pick out of LSU, plays safety, all that fun stuff. Now, C.J. Allen's rookie year for the Colts should be incredibly loud. When you go to Colts games, you should hear the popping of the pads when he hits people. You should look up and say, man, C.J. Allen's around the football again. He should be around the ball all the time because that is what linebackers do. Okay, it is see ball, go get ball. Safeties are different. A.J. Halsey is stepping into a completely different role than C.J. Allen is. Okay, C.J. Allen is the guy you see. He's the big bouncer at the front door of a nightclub that's throwing guys out and is saying that our women to male ratio isn't good enough, man. So I'm sorry, but you can't go in. Also, you're wearing Jordans. This is a nice club. We don't allow Jordans in here. Okay? So there's that, right? That is C.J. Allen. Front, loud, physical, and you want to see him. Halsey, I want A.J. Halsey to play like a high-level Secret Service agent. Okay, when you watch a motorcade or a public event, you aren't supposed to notice the guy in the suit and the sunglasses. if you're noticing him, it's usually because he's not good at his job or someone breached, the perimeter and he's having to try to keep things in order. Okay, if we're sitting at home watching the replay and the announcer is circling Halsey because he took a bad angle or he blew a coverage, that probably means the Colts end zone just got breached. Okay, I want Halsey to be invisible for 58 minutes of the game. I want him gliding in the background, keeping the roof on the defense and ensuring that Cam Bynum isn't having to worry about him the whole time and worry about cleaning up his rookie mistakes. But here's the catch. The best agents, they're invisible until they see a threat that they can neutralize, right? Before it even happens, right? Like that's the ultimate job of like a secret agent. Like they want to keep the bad things from even starting, right? And because the Colts have Sauce Gardner and Travarius Ward on the outside, two lockdown corners, Halsey's going to have the luxury of keeping his eyes on the quarterback. And I want him to be the kind of safety that just kind of hangs out in the shadows all game. You see him make a few tackles here and there, right up until he sees a pass that he can jump or a ball that he can rip away. I want to notice him twice a game. Once after the game when I'm looking at the box score and I see that the Colts gave up 0 big plays. And once when I see him sprinting down the sidelines with the ball in his hands because he stripped somebody or he jumped a route and he picked it off and he's taking it to the house. Okay, be a Secret Service agent, AJ. Stay out of the spotlight. Only show up when it's time to change the game. Be unnoticeable and then do something big. That is what I want from Halsey. That doesn't seem like too big of a role to fill. Hopefully, after he proves that he can do that, we'll see Lou Anarumo try some crazier concepts with him by moving him around. That is one of the nice things about him. I'm very intrigued to kind of see how he looks going forward. Someone texted and said, Jonathan, wise up. Oh, thanks, man. The defense is trash. Look no further than C.J. Stroud, the worst playoff quarterback in the last decade. False. The worst playoff quarterback in the last decade is Justin Herbert. No doubt about that. He is only good against the Colts. That's not true. In 5 games against your future top 5 defense, I said the Colts would be top 10. Jeez Louise, come on. C.J. Stroud has only thrown 1 interception. He had 4 turnovers and a half during the playoffs. Well, here's the difference, whoever sent that text. The Colts upgraded at linebacker. Zaire Franklin is no longer there. They upgraded at corner. They brought in Sauce Gardner, way better than Jonathan Edwards or Jalen Jones or whoever else the Colts were rotating in and out over there. And they brought in a safety in A.J. Halsey, who I think is going to be better than Nick Cross. Okay? Now, if you want to say, Jonathan, the defense isn't going to be good because they don't have enough edge rushers. That is a totally fair critique. Totally fair. Here's the other thing. Turnovers are a luck stat. If you want to base the production of a team and their defense based on turnovers, then your best defenses are going to change every year because turnovers, again, are a luck stat. That's just the very simple reality of it. Like the best defense in the NFL last year was probably Seattle's. They didn't lead the league in turnovers. One of the better defenses in the NFL last year was Philadelphia. They were 11th in turnovers forced. Let me see. Let me find a bad defense here. The Chargers defense wasn't very good last year. They were 7th in turnovers forced. So if you want to, rate a defense based on turnovers, then you're just rating the defense based on the wrong thing. So sorry about that. Colts, college players gambling. There's just a ton of stuff going on. We got Kevin Potts from the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL draft breakdown Substack. He's going to join the show coming up here at 2:20, where we will continue to talk draft. I want to continue talking about this Brendan Sorsby story because there's a lot more to it than what meets the eye currently. I will talk about that in 3 minutes.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh.
The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. What's up, Chris? Your mic's on.
How much did you pay those people to say, yeah?
I didn't make that.
Sorry.
I mean,
I think of that every time. I'm like, who are these people? I'm sure they had a good reason because you're awesome.
sometimes.
But I was just wondering if you like cash at them or something. All right,
Sometimes I'm dumb and need to wise up apparently. So, I mean, I don't know, man. Oh gosh. How much did I pay those people to say yeah?
You're gonna think of that every time you hear it now.
I am. You're right. I mean, it's a fair question. It's like, Jonathan, I didn't know that many people knew who you were. It's like, you know what hasn't happened yet this week? We should do this every week going forward. And because it hasn't happened yet, we're going to do it right now. Over under 1.5 people calling into the show asking where Dan is. Over under 1.5.
I think I'm gonna stay under.
Under? I'd probably go under. If the line was just a half. So like if one person called in, you lost. Would you go over or under?
I'd probably go over. There's always gonna be
We'll
somebody.
put it at 1.5. We'll put it at 1.5. I'll take the over. Misfits, if you guys want to call in and ask where Dan is, that would be great. Get me off this cold streak, man. Oh, geez. There's nothing worse than that. There's nothing worse than like sports gambling and just going on a slide, because I like to think that I'm like a lot of other people where every sports bet I make, I'm like, yeah, lock that up. Let me just go spend the money now. There's no way I'm going to be wrong. And then I'm wrong. So speaking of going on sports gambling slides, new quarterback at Texas Tech, former Indiana backup in 2022, started at Cincinnati last year. Brennan Sorsby has checked himself into a residential treatment program for his gambling addiction. He has made thousands of sports bets. Kind of insane, including betting on Indiana in 2022 when he was on the team. That's obviously a big no-no. You can't do that. Based on the NCAA's rules, there is a chance that he is not allowed to play for Texas Tech this next year. That's what should happen to him. Okay? Like that's what should happen. We'll see. We'll see if it actually happens or not, because, with the way that all this college sports stuff works, if you want to play, you get to play. Like if I wanted to go back, I'm sure that I could probably figure out some way to win a lawsuit to be allowed to play. But we'll see what ends up happening with Brennan Sorsby. I am glad that he is getting help, but there has to be a lot more to this story. Okay, this feels like the ultimate preemptive strike. Okay, think back to when you were a kid, playing ball in the house. Your brother hangs a slider, and you just crush this ball. And you feel pretty good about it for half a second, and then it shatters your mom's favorite vase, and you know she's going to be home in like 10 minutes. I mean, you've got a couple of options after that. You can sweep it under the rug and hope that no one notices, or you can just meet her at the door and say, hey, Mom, I'm so sorry. I broke this. I broke the rule of not playing ball in the house. And then, kind of hope to see what happens from there. And you hope that the honesty saves you from a more severe punishment. Me personally, it wouldn't. My bottom would have been red and purple when it was done one way or the other. But that is what I think Brennan Sorsby is doing. Okay, he is meeting the NCAA at the front door. This dude has made thousands of bets. And we're hearing about these like $1 to $2 bets that he was making at Reds games. This kid has signed multiple lucrative NIL deals at Cincinnati and Texas Tech. You don't check into a residential facility seeking help over a few $1.50 parlays on the Cincinnati Reds. Like, that's a Tuesday night for a lot of America. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for the bomb, the little ticker at the bottom of ESPN's screen that says that he bet $2,000 on Cincinnati to lose to Nebraska last year, and he made however much money off of that. That is what I'm waiting on. Okay, something that actually compromises the game. I think he's trying to smother the grease fire before the whole kitchen burns down, but that smoke really hasn't even cleared yet. Okay? Just saying. So that whole story, man, like, is that how you feel about it? Do you feel like another thing is coming on, or do you think he was gambling responsibly? Just very, very often.
No, I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head, and man, I hope it was worth it. We're about to find out here pretty soon. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. We'll see. I'm waiting on it because I'm sure like they got to be looking into him right now. I'm kind of surprised more stuff hasn't really come out today, just because whatever sports gambling app he was using, I mean, they have all that information. They can pull up your profile. They can see all your bets, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just kind of waiting on a few other things to come out. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Again, love Coach Signetti. This will never be an issue as long as Coach Signetti is there. He does a great job of bringing in high character guys. And like, look, if you're going to give NIL money to a 20-year-old, they have to have some high character so that they're not doing stupid stuff like that. So speaking of NIL, it is changing the way that teams want to invest their money. It is changing the decisions that a lot of these athletes are making as well. There have only been 71 early entries into the NBA draft this year. That is the lowest amount since 2003. We heard multiple reports or I have heard, maybe you haven't, I don't know. I have heard multiple reports of general managers talking about how thin day 3 was in terms of guys that they actually deemed draftable. Now, I think that there's two parts to that. One, it was said multiple times, this is not some elite draft class overflowing with talent. So I think part of it is this was a thinner draft class, and the other part of it is NIL. It is shifting both college football and college basketball. Now, in terms of the pros, this doesn't really have, I think, any effect. For some reason, everyone just hates the NBA, and everything that happens is just the worst thing for the NBA, which isn't true. So let's start with this. More guys staying in college doesn't impact the NBA at all. All of the big-time NBA-ready guys, they're still coming out. Like if the Pacers have a top 4 pick, the top 4 NBA draft prospects are all available. None of them decided to go back to school. Okay? That's all that matters to the NBA. And in the long run, this is actually going to be good for the NBA for a couple of reasons. One, players getting drafted going forward will be one of two things. One, an extremely talented 18-year-old or a developed 22-year-old. Okay, that's true for basketball, right? And that's obviously a good thing because everyone that gets drafted is either going to be super talented or it's going to be someone who knows how to play basketball and is going to be able to show up and impact your roster immediately, right? This should lead to NBA players being better. There will no longer be 19-year-old projects sitting on the end of the bench playing 12 minutes a game simply because they just need more reps. They're not going to get all those reps in college making money, the way that they should be. For the NFL, same thing. The players coming into the NFL are going to be better. I think we'll see less scouting mistakes as well because now you're going to get to see them play more as opposed to, trying to draft Anthony Richardson after playing one season of college football. I bet that the Colts don't take him if he plays 3 seasons of college football. or something like that. Because the more tape you have on a guy, the easier it is to find all of the little nuances of their game that don't translate, right? Whereas, you play 12 games. I mean, I don't know, the highlights stick out a little bit better, obviously. So it's a good thing for these bigger or for these professional leagues. It's also good for the NBA because players are going to have bigger reputations coming into the NBA. People that follow women's basketball are experiencing this right now. They have a relationship with players when they get drafted because they saw Caitlin Clark play at Iowa for 4 years. And they saw Aaliyah Boston play at South Carolina for 4 years. And so on. Like this hasn't been a thing in the NBA for a long time. It will be now because these college guys are going to stay in college, even if they're bouncing around. I mean, the characters, like honestly, you'll probably pay more attention to them because some kid, at Oral Roberts is going to have a great year and everyone's going to see it in March. And then the whole basketball offseason is going to be about how do we get that kid to come to IU? How much money does he cost? And then he comes here and he plays another 3 years and then he goes on to the pros or something like that, right? So I don't even think that the transferring, which is going to happen, I don't even think that really the transferring is going to limit the relationship that we have with players. So this is absolutely a good thing for college sports as well. Part of why I think Indiana had so much success last year is they were just older. Like Fernando Mendoza was a senior who had, started, for 2 or 3 years at Cal. I don't remember how many years he started for them. Aiden Fisher was an older player. Elijah Surratt was an older player. Omar Cooper Jr. was older. Pat Coogan was an older player. Like when you work through D'Angelo Pons, what was an older player, like as you work through the Indiana roster, it's a lot of older guys. Whether they started at Indiana, started at James Madison, or transferred in from somewhere else. It was an older roster, and it led to Indiana being the best team in the country. Ohio State had an older roster. Miami had an older roster. And football is such a physical game. You want to be older because a 25-year-old is likely bigger and stronger than a 21-year-old. It's just the reality of it. And obviously, the 25-year-old in college has had a lot of reps. And so they know how to get to the quarterback or they know how to read cover 3 or whatever it is. So because guys are staying in college longer, it is making the product of the college sports better, but it's also raising the floor in terms of the ability that you have to be drafted into the NBA or into the NFL. And I think that's a really good thing all the way around. So NIL, it's a good thing. There's still some issues with it, but they're slowly working on it. As more and more, lawsuits happen, it's great. It's fun. Not really. That is the one thing that I wish there was a way to change. Like, I don't blame these guys wanting to stay in college for as long as possible because college life's awesome. I loved being in college. Chris, did you like being in college?
It was definitely fun. I enjoyed it. It's a great deal.
It's the perfect amount of freedom.
You couldn't have said it better.
It's like, oh, I can do whatever I want tonight, but also, hey, Mom, can I have like $20?
Exactly.
and she says yes because she misses you. What did I had friends in college. My parents never did this to me. But their parents would change the Netflix passcode so that they would call home.
You have to remember that I'm way older.
I know. I was going to ask if there was anything like that.
I don't think we had Netflix when I was in college.
Or just did they do anything to get you to call home or write a letter? Was that?
Not that old, man. I don't know. I stayed in touch pretty consistently, but I did work a lot when I was in school. I was up in Minnesota, so I was out of state. But to be fair, at that time, gas was a lot cheaper, so I made the 8-hour trip back and forth every other weekend from Minnesota to come and visit. So I didn't really have to write letters to my parents or anything like that.
Man, I went to college. I never went home. Like, and part of that, it was on purpose because like I wanted to go home.
Right.
Like that first weekend you're on campus, and where I went to school, there's nothing to do. And so it's just like, man, like I guess I'm gonna walk around and maybe run into a couple of people. And so I just knew that if I went home every weekend, I wasn't gonna have any friends.
That's fair.
And so
I
yeah.
loved the college town. I mean, it was just southeast of, I think it was St. Paul,
Nice.
up in Minnesota. I lived in Egan. But the only bad thing about Minnesota is they have 8-month winters and it snowed. Whenever it snowed,
Oh
bro.
yeah.
But the Mall of America up there and all the view, the scenery was very nice up there for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been to Minnesota. I want to go at some point. I like to hike. Is there good hiking up there?
I'm sure there is. It's not something I seeked out, but I wouldn't
Okay.
doubt it.
Sounds good. I'll let the wife know. Vacation. We're going to Minnesota so we can hike.
It'd probably be a cold one too, I'm sure.
Probably.
Much cooler up north.
Probably. We've got Kevin Potts joining the show coming up here at 2:20 to talk NFL draft. Top 10 Tuesday because it is Tuesday. We'll get into that coming up at 2:00.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Hour number 3 getting underway. Kevin Potts joining here in about 20 minutes. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. More NFL draft discussion, 317-228-1430. If you would like to call in to talk NFL draft, or you can hit the text line as well. Again, that number is 317-228-1430. Man, how about Mike Vrabel? I mean, that guy, I'm so intrigued by the Patriots and what their season is going to look like. Just because stuff like that just has a way of like oozing into the cracks and impacting everything that's going on. Because obviously, like Mike Vrabel is going to be fully committed to helping his team out. I'm assuming there's a decent chance that he gets divorced over this. So, like, in the background, you're having to worry about all that, and that obviously takes away or could take away from some of your time in the facility and and how all those things work. So I'm very intrigued to kind of know how all that impacts him. We did have a little bit of breaking news. Damon Jones pleaded guilty to the gambling charges, and this is, this is one of I would argue it's the craziest story from the NBA season. This just happened. Former NBA player and coach Damon Jones pleaded guilty to charges. He tipped off sports bettors about an injured LeBron James and used his own celebrity to lure high rollers into rigged poker games. This is all connected with the Chauncey Billups arrest as well. And play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I guess. I mean, come on, man.
People do stupid things for money, man. And it's not even guaranteed.
And they don't
time,
need
you know
it.
what I mean?
Well, their operation. I don't know how much you read into it when it happened. But basically, they would be like, hey, you should come play poker. And everyone would be like, dude, I can play poker with Damon Jones and Chauncey Billups. Sign me up. And then they had like cameras around, like in the room that they were playing so they could see everybody's cards. And they had earpieces in everybody's ears to know kind of like when to bet, when to fold. Pretty nuts stuff.
That's dirty.
Yeah.
Dirty.
It's stealing. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they're ripping these people off. And so, and the thing about it that I'll never understand, maybe one day I'll have a bunch of money and I'll have a little better perspective on it. Probably not. But like, you've already got so much money. Like Chauncey Billups was actively coaching the Portland Trailblazers. Like you probably making somewhere around $5 million a year. I get it. Probably made more as a player. But I think I'd be fine living in small town Portland on $5 million a year.
Right.
I get it. They have really nice coffee shops up there, but I don't know. I don't think you're blowing $5 million a year on coffee. I feel like you need it, man.
It's a lot of coffee.
Dude, I remember when I first moved here, I spent so much money on coffee.
What was your go-to coffee place?
Command Coffee on College Avenue.
Huh.
I think that's where it's at. It's awesome. I love that place. I need to take Amelia there. I've never taken her. It's just like it's a sentimental place for me. And there are certain I don't get sentimental about much, but there are certain things that I certainly do get sentimental about, and this is one of those things because I would literally, I told you I walked everywhere that I could because I just trying to save money when I first moved here, and I would walk down to the place. It was like a 20-minute walk. I'd walk by this like ghetto looking basketball court, and the first couple times I did it, like, I didn't feel super safe. I like walked underneath an overpass, and there's like homeless people sleeping there and all that kind of stuff. It's on it's on 2910 North College Avenue, and I would walk down there, and I would get a dirty chai latte every time. They were old school. They had little like hole punch things. So like once you bought 10 coffees, like your next one was free. And so I'd walk down there literally every day. I would wake up at like 10 a.m. after waiting tables the night before, and I'd walk down there. I would, get my coffee, and I would sit there for hours, and I would prep for like a podcast that I was going to do that no one listened to, or I would like write an article that no one ever read. That's where it all kind of happened. And I don't know. I look back on it pretty fondly. The owner of the restaurant, the owner of the coffee house, like, it was his first time opening a coffee house. And so he was trying to figure things out. And so he would like ask me questions, and it was just, he's a really nice guy. And so, yeah, man, I just love that place.
Totally get it, man.
Yeah. Do you have anywhere like that?
You always gotta start somewhere. I have a favorite coffee place, but not nearly as sentimental as that. That's okay. I do love me some Dutch Brothers. If you haven't been to Dutch Brothers, it is legit. I'm glad they are finally in Indiana. This is a spot that I regularly went to every day, and when I lived in Denver, and they're finally starting to hit the Midwest. We got a few locations here in Indy, so check it out sometime.
There's one across the street from my gym.
Love Dutch Brothers.
Brought it up. I went there like 2 weeks ago. It was good. I liked it. I had a good time.
It's not just the coffee either. They have a good atmosphere. Like whenever you drive through the drive-through or whatever, they got music playing. They're in good mood. You know what I mean? It's much more laid back than say like a Starbucks or something. So there
have you been? So I love coffee. Like, it's just, I love it. There's a place that I found when I first moved here, and I need to go back. I haven't been back since, but it sits in my mind. Have you ever been to Square Cat Vinyl?
Yes, I have.
I haven't been back. I want to go back so bad.
That was a legit spot as well.
It's because I moved here. I was here for like 2 weeks, and then all of my friends came to see me. I was like, guys, I'm sleeping on an air mattress. I've got a futon, I guess.
Yeah.
And so one of my friends, her name's JC. She drove up from Arkansas, and she was here for like a week. And she was like, what do you want to go do? Like, what is there to do around here? It's like, I have no idea. No clue. So we would just go places and walk around. Like, we walked up and down Mass Ave. Square Cat Vinyl's in, what's the name of that place? Village. I forget the name of it.
Yeah, I can't think of it at the moment either. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, it's like, that's like the cool area south side of like downtown Indy. And we were walking through there, and she was like, oh, vinyl shop. Oh, and there's coffee. And so it was cool. So anyway, we got
Fountain Square.
There
it is.
There you go. What in the world? Why did Gritty say what? Oh, what do you like there?
I'm assuming she's talking about Dutch Brothers.
Yeah.
So they have like the similar to Frappuccino at Starbucks, like anything blended iced coffees. But anything, because sometimes like on their app, they have like a secret menu or whatever the flavor of the day is or whatnot. That's where you want to start. Anything white chocolate, caramel, obviously start there and then work your way up. So many different possibilities.
I like it. We got a call on the line, 317-228-1430. That is the number if you want to call in. We're talking coffee right now. We'll talk about just about anything, though. Just about anything. Yeah, I'm a big coffee guy too. I only drink my coffee hot, not really an iced coffee guy. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Buzzard, what's going on? Maybe.
I think I lost him on it.
Buzzard, call in again. We hit the wrong button.
Stupid fat fingers.
It's okay. Hey, man, it happens. All right, that's Buzzard. You can just throw on the air. Maybe. And now we hit the button. All right, Buzzard, what's up?
Hey, I'm giving you the best restaurant recommendation. That's going to sound terrible, but I'll tell you why it's awesome.
Okay.
All right, MCL Cafeteria.
Oh, no.
Where's that at?
Yeah. MCL cafeteria, there is one in Castleton and there is one in Carmel. MCL is a cafeteria style. The average age of MCL for the attendees is about 175 years old.
Okay.
However, the concept is amazing. It just has a bad stigma, and we're going to get over that. So it's cafeteria style. So you go in, so you do not have to wait. So if you have kids and you're in a rush and you're whatever, but it's basically like being able to walk into a restaurant and go and pick out any food that your grandmother cooked when you were younger. So we're talking like meatloaf and potatoes, and it's like Thanksgiving to go.
Oh, wow. Thanksgiving to go. Sign me up for that. That
Yeah.
sounds great.
Yep. So you get a tray, you walk through it. There's peach cobbler. There's rolls. There's all this other stuff. So you go get this really awesome food that tastes like your grandma would have made it. And you sit around and you feel young, because as long as you're under 70 years old, you will feel young at MCL. So there's my recommendation.
MCL cafeteria.
That is accurate, Buzzard. Accurate. Although I would say Carmel and Fisher's probably the better locations. There was one on the east side that I think is shut down now, and that was not good cafeteria right there.
Yeah, they are minimizing the MCLs. They're trying to take them away from me, but I'm not going to let them. I'm going to keep them in business. So I would recommend it. There's no wait. You get the stuff yourself. You go refill your own drinks, all that kind of stuff. People call you sweetie when you walk through and sit down.
That sounds great.
One of the only restaurants you'll ever go to that has Jell-O. Thing. Like they have Jell-O cubes.
Jeez.
Yeah, Jell-O, pudding, meatloaf, all the great things. Eat like a child.
I've got their menu, if you can even call it that, because it looks like it rotates, pulled up. Sign me up. This place sounds awesome. Under salads, it says cubed Jell-O. Any place that considers Jell-O a salad is my kind of place.
And even if you go like the big shift, the after church crowd on Sundays, there might be 20 people tops. It's never going to be over 20% full. You walk in and it's like, how are you still in business? But always good food.
Okay. I wrote it down. I'm going to if I told Amelia it was cafeteria style, I don't know if she'd be a fan of that. So I'm just going to be like, Amelia, we had a guy call in today, and he said this place called MCL is really good. I'm just going to leave out the second half of the name, and we'll go at some point. All right.
Mara rolls her eyes. My kids think it's awesome. So, yeah, you will get the eye roll, but just try it out for fun.
Okay, will do. Thanks for the call, Buzzard.
All right, man. See ya.
See ya. Hey, you can PSA. If you have a restaurant recommendation, call in with it. Like, I am always down for a restaurant recommendation. I could be in the middle of the most important segment that I've ever done. But if you give me a restaurant recommendation, I will put pause on it and I will listen to you.
I'm gonna say Charleston's on 82nd Street right up here.
I don't even know what that is.
There's not very many of them, but they have some really good pork chops up there. So Charleston's, write that down, and it really just depends on what you're looking for, and that's probably a show for another day because we'll go on forever about that.
Everything. Gritty says MCL is freaking disgusting. Gritty, when's the last time you went?
She went to the one on the east side that closed down, probably.
Hey man, I'm all about it. Like, there's a place in Jacksonville, Arkansas that sounds pretty similar. Old school, like you walk in and you get a tray, and they have lunch ladies. That's what they are, and they put it on the tray for you. So yeah, that sounds like my kind of place right there.
MCL reminds me of like nursing home vibes, right? Like,
I won't lie. When he said that they had Jell-O, I was like, oh, I can picture the crowd now.
It's a mix of like a hospital and a nursing home cafeteria. Envision that, and that is MCL. But the food is much better.
We were talking about comedians last week. And by the way, I'm going to a comedy show on Thursday night.
Oh, are you going to see Morgan J?
I have no idea.
Who?
My buddy.
Where's it?
My buddy texted me. He was like, I'm going to a comedy show. The person I was going with dropped out. Do you want to go? I was like, absolutely. And so I just know that it's on Thursday.
If it's downtown at Old National Center, you're going to see Morgan J. It's going to be a good show.
Okay. Here, he showed me a photo of the guy. You said Morgan J.
Yeah, he's like I would say he's a lot like Tom Green. He's got like that kind of attitude, if you remember Tom Green.
Yep, I'm going to see Morgan J. Yep.
Oh man, I'm so jealous. I want to go to that show.
That's who it is. And so I'm excited, man. But you were talking about Jell-O and that kind of stuff. Jim Gaffigan has one of my favorite bits ever. He talks about his wife having brain surgery. And there he makes a comment of how like the cafeteria at hospitals is just terrible. And he goes, how about we sell an MRI machine and we buy a pasta station? I was like, sounds like a great idea, man. Works for me. All right. We've got more NFL draft stuff to cover. We've got the one and only Kevin Potts, our official draft guy here on the Real Jonathan Smith Show. He's going to join in about 3 minutes, and we are going to discuss the NFL draft.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, the Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching the show on X, _ Jonathan Smith. Follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app as promised. It is 2:20, which means we are bringing in the official NFL draft guy of the Real Jonathan Smith Show, Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Substack. Kevin, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good. There's always a little bit of a whiplash at a couple days after the draft, getting used to not being crazy busy, but it's good to be here as always.
I love having you on because there's just being in content is hard because everyone is like, why are we giving out draft grades when we've never seen any of these guys play in the NFL? And like, it's a fair question, but at the same time, like, what do you want me to say? I'll have an opinion for you in 3 years. Like, you can't really do that. And so I appreciate on your Substack, you, instead of doing a draft grades thing, you kind of laid out what needs to happen for each team's draft class for it to be considered a success. What is that for the Colts with all the guys that they've taken?
Yeah, I wanted to try something a little bit different this year because, like you said, draft grades, we know they're kind of a faulty exercise just a couple days after. But when you put this much work into a class, you want to give out your opinions. So this was my way of changing up a little bit this year. I think the Colts are a fascinating one because for a lot of the teams, your first round pick determines a majority of your draft grade. That's just the nature of the beast, just because of the amount of investment that goes into it. They don't have one. So it makes it a little bit more interesting looking at two players at the top in CJ Allen and AJ Halsey, who are probably going to carry the brunt of this draft grade. And we've talked a little bit about how Ballard likes to draft B to B plus players too much. But when you're drafting two dudes outside of the top 50, getting a B plus player is a success. That's getting you an A plus on the test when you do that. And I think for this class, it's going to be those two players and Allen and Halsey becoming good starters. They're both veteran players, play a lot of football. I don't know how high their ceiling is, but I feel pretty good about their floor. If they step in by the end of their rookie contracts, those are both quality starters for this team. I think Colts fans and the national media will look back at this class and go, yeah, that was a good class for the Colts.
So I opened the show by talking about expectations because I think expectations in the NFL, a lot of it is dependent upon the players around you, right? Like, this is probably a bad example, but I think we should expect more of Fernando Mendoza in Las Vegas than we do of Carson Beck in Arizona. Not only because Mendoza was the number 1 overall pick, but like the support around him is better. I think he's got better weapons, a better offensive line, and so on. And so when applying that to CJ Allen, I've got really high expectations for him this year because I think that the defensive tackle group in front of him is really good between Buckner and Grover Stewart and Colby Wooden. What do you kind of expect from CJ Allen? What are fair expectations for him in particular?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, especially compared to some other linebackers in this class. Like Jacob Rodriguez in Miami is probably going to have a tougher time because that front of him is not very good, even though he went earlier. And I think with Allen, a lot of linebackers do take a little bit to get going because of the mental game. And the same with safety with Halsey. I think this applies to him too, is the college game doesn't really teach these guys how to properly play what it takes to the NFL game. I'm not as worried about that with Allen. I hear anyone talk about him at the Georgia program. I saw some quotes from Ballard. Pretty much anyone that has ever met this kid or involved in this kid says he is a fantastic football mind, a fantastic leader. You don't get the green dot in Kirby Smart's defense just by accident. That is something you have to earn. So I feel pretty confident in he is the type of player that is going to be an immediate impact player. Like I said, I don't know how high the ceiling is. He's not the biggest, and he's got some flexibility issues. But in terms of just stepping in day one and being a starting Mike backer, being able to handle a defense, the calls, where to put guys, where he's supposed to be, I'm not worried about him skipping a beat from college to the pros.
Joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdown Substack. So Colts fans are, I would say annoyed is probably the right word, because I do think that Colts fans had a pretty good understanding of what this draft was going to be. They had 4 real needs going into the draft, but when you only have 2 picks on day 1 and 2, you're probably not going to be able to address all of them. With that being said, Colts fans are upset that they passed on Elijah Surratt in round 4 to take an offensive guard. I liked that pick. I don't like Surratt as much as some other people. And everyone wants an edge rusher, especially Colts fans, because we've been waiting on one for a while. With that being said, I didn't mind passing there just because, like, you could go sign a Joey Bosa or a Jadeveon Clowney or a Jawan Jennings or someone like that to kind of help bridge the gap for those needs. What did you think of the Colts passing on Surratt, and which of those free agents available, if any, do you think would work well for the Colts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it would be nice to get a receiver and edge if you liked one, but I don't think there's anything wrong with passing on those guys, especially if you look at where the depth chart is created. If they're going to use more two tight end stuff with how good Warren is, you have Downs and Pierce as your top two receivers. I think that's fine. And you mentioned just like with edge rusher, wide receiver has a bunch of free agents. Juwan Jennings is still out there. I think it's a fantastic fit to do what you'd ask Surratt to do. I think the same thing with Keenan Allen. If you want a bigger body slot receiver, those guys can fill the role. Or maybe you want a guy with some more creation with the ball, a guy like Deebo Samuel to bring in. So there's options at receiver. You mentioned some good edge ones as much. If you look at safety, linebacker, and guard on like the veteran market, you're not getting guys who are going to step in and probably be upgrades over what you had. So I think it's pretty understandable the frustrations you want a receiver, especially as a fan base. I think we all want to get more pass catchers. It's a ton of fun. But I think the way the board felt for them, I think they did a pretty good job of just taking the best player and not having to reach at some positions they maybe felt like they needed.
Totally agreed. Again, joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdown Substack. All right, so when I invited Kevin on, I told him we were going to do this exercise. So we did a bunch of drafts last week to kind of celebrate the NFL draft starting, and I feel like the best way to kind of close on the NFL draft, because I've beaten my CJ Allen and AJ Halsey takes into the ground. We are going to draft our favorite draft classes from this year, right? So since you are the guest, I will give you the first pick. We're going to pick 5 each. Did I tell you that part? Did I tell you 5? Okay.
Yeah.
So you can have the first pick.
Okay, I'm going to start with the team. I don't know if this can be shocking to people, but I'm going to go with the Raiders. I think when you have the first overall pick and you take my number one player in the class, you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to knock that pick out of the park. But I do think it matters when I'm looking at how much I like a class. And then I thought they did great the next 2 days. Obviously, the Jermon McCoy slide is tough with his knee injury. And I'm not a doctor. I have not seen any of the medicals, so I don't know. But most fourth-round picks, you're lighting on fire anyways. If the upside of my first fourth-round pick is an all-pro corner, which I believe he was a top 13 player for me, I think he's a fantastic player. I think that's totally worth the risk. And then there are other picks. I was a big Treydon Stukes fan. I think he's going to move from the nickel to free safety. Kieran Crawford was a late watch for me, but I think that is a really nice third rotational pass rusher with some upside. And Trey Zune's an offensive lineman that can play all 5 spots. So I'm looking at them. It's like, you've hit the most important position. You have a really nice upside swing on day 3. And I think you checked a lot of boxes through your day 2 picks.
I'm a little frustrated because I didn't think that you would go Raiders off the rip. And they had my favorite draft class as well. I think Mike Washington's going to be a nice complement to Ashton Jeanty, especially with the zone run scheme that Kubiak likes to run. Malik Benson going in the 6th round as well. Didn't mind taking a flyer on him either. You know, had a solid year at Oregon last year. So they had my favorite draft class. With my pick, I am going to take the Cleveland Browns, because the Browns, I mean, Spencer Fano, we'll see if they play him at tackle or not, but he's kind of a guy who can play anywhere along the offensive line. He's freaking huge, which I love. KC Concepcion, really explosive receiver out of A&M. Grabbing Denzel Boston as well. I mean, those are 3 excellent picks. When you look at, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, that was a guy that some people mocked, maybe going like late 1st. They grab him in round 2. Later on in the draft, they grabbed the freak Taylon Green to add their 20th quarterback into that room. But a guy with a lot of upside. Todd Monken really likes quarterbacks who can move. If he started a game this year, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I don't know if I would predict that, but wouldn't be surprised by it. I really liked their draft really all the way through.
Yeah, that would have been my second pick. They're right up there with the Raiders. And I think if you're not waiting heavily for the Mendoza pick at quarterback, there's a pretty strong argument they're 1. You mentioned their top 4 picks are all dudes that were in my top 50. I mean, that's obviously fantastic. You had a couple nice offensive linemen in Austin Barber and Parker Brailsford on day 2 and 3, and they all fit together. You have 3 really athletic offensive linemen that fit a zone scheme. I love the way Boston and Concepcion, you have an X and a Z receiver for 4 to 5 years now. I think pair with each other really well in their strengths and weaknesses. And screw it, take the dart throw on quarterback. See what Green's got. If it doesn't work, like I said, day 3 picks don't end up anything anyways, but you need more options in that room, and your quarterback room is a lot of low ceiling guys as it currently stands. So take that swing. I think they did a really good job on day 3 of just saying, this is the best player that's currently standing there. Let's take him because we're 3 years away from competing.
Joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdown Substack, because we're going over our favorite draft style. He took the Raiders with the first pick. I just took the Browns. Who are you taking as your second team here?
For my second team, I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because all 4 of their first 4 picks I absolutely loved. They were all top 75 guys on my board. I think you start with Bain is obviously the big headliner because he's a player for many people is a top 5 to 10 player in this class. He drops because of the arm length and some rumblings off the field for whatever reason. But for Tampa Bay specifically, this was a team, I think at 15, everyone's like, you need an edge rusher. You have no shot at getting one at 15. You're going to have to trade back and maneuver. And then they get, in what in my opinion was the best pure edge in the class at 15. I think that's fantastic. And they need a linebacker that's been super well known. I'm way higher on Josiah Trotter than other people, so that's an easy pick for me in the second round. And guys like Ted Hurst and Keontae Scott are both guys in my top 75, like I said, that I think are going to play contributing roles from day one for a team that's going to try and win a weak NFC South.
You like Jeremiah Trotter more than everyone not named Zach Hicks. Every time I talk to that guy, he just waxes poetic about him. But yeah, I had them on my list. Didn't have them quite as high as you did, but it's mainly because of that Bain pick, like you said. Didn't seem like they'd be able to find an edge, and then they land a guy who is just all business. Like, I freaking love that dude. Him and Vita Vea, like, they're going to get after the quarterback really well in Tampa. With my next pick, I'm going to take the Giants draft. Arvell Reese could end up being the best player in this class. I think it's really possible. He also, I think, went to the perfect place where he can kind of play that weak side linebacker while he's developing his ability to rush the passer. So I thought that pick was great. Francis Mauigoa, another big offensive tackle out of Miami. Like, we all know that the game's about quarterbacks. You need to be able to protect and get after the other guys. I thought that they did that in the first round. I know some people wanted them to take downs. I just don't like taking a safety with that high of a pick. Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame's a really nice receiver as well. So I just like how quarterback focused their draft was.
Yeah, I agree. They were 5th for me. I think they have a great draft class. I try not to overrate the teams with, 2 first-round picks sometimes because I feel like that you're supposed to hit. But I thought they did a really good job. Like you mentioned, I thought Mauigoa always made sense for them. I had them going 5th overall in the mock. I just couldn't see a Harbaugh team having a hole like that at guard and not plugging it. Reese is obviously fantastic. I was a big Colton Hood guy. He was a top 25 player for me. I think that's a corner one in this league. And then Fields as well, I think pairs really well with Neighbors. Now you have some size on the outside. You can let Neighbors move around and do what he does, and he doesn't have to be your go-to guy on the outside all the time. Only one question with the class, and I mentioned it in my article, is if Reese ends up as an off-ball linebacker and Mauigoa ends up as a guard. You mentioned not taking downs because of a safety. Do we look back in 4 to 5 years and go, oh, we thought you were getting an edge and a franchise tackle, and you got a really good linebacker and a really good guard, which is totally fine. But when you have 2 top 10 picks, I'm curious in 4 to 5 years, do we look back and say it was a good, not great draft because those guys didn't end up at the valuable positions we maybe projected them at?
That is a very fair question. I'd be like Arvell Reese. It's really weird. A decade ago, if you were a tweener, that was a bad thing. Now it's kind of a good thing. And so I just think that they're going to be able to move him around, and he's just going to be a really unique piece for that defense where offenses don't really know what he's going to do. So I like the flexibility there. We'll see, though. I think that's a very fair critique of their draft. Who is your third pick?
My third pick is going to be the Carolina Panthers, actually. I was a big fan of their early day process of taking a tackle in Monroe Freeling. This was a team, I think, that was mocked a lot of playmakers on offense for good reason. They need some more help at receiver and tight end. But I think with Ike Ekwonu, Terrence Patella tendon, we don't know when he's going to be back. he is in the last year of his deal. You have Rasheed Walker on a 1-year deal. Getting the upside in Freeling, you don't have to play him right away. And now in 2027, you could have the best tackle in the class with his upside. I love that. And you mirror it with a receiver in Chris Brazell, who I wasn't overly in love with, but in the third round with his talent and you need a deep threat, I think those are really nice upside plays. And then when you pair that with a day 3 that is a bunch of impact guys, like I believe Will Lee, Sam Hecht, and Zakee Wheatley are 3 dudes who could all start on their rookie deals. So I think they did a really nice job of drafting for the future and for the present right now through all 3 days, which made me a pretty big fan of that class.
Joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdown Substack. We are talking draft. We're drafting our favorite drafts from this year. I said draft a bunch in there. It's fun, I promise. For my third pick, I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs. I know people weren't big fans of them trading up for Delane, the cornerback from LSU. Maybe they got duped by Washington. I don't know. Either way, like they traded up. They addressed the need, right, by going up and getting him. I really like Peter Woods. Like if we rewind to this point last year, we're talking about Peter Woods like he's potentially going to be a top 5 guy. He obviously has a down year at Clemson, but the talent's there. Mason Thomas, the edge out of Oklahoma as well. I thought they did a really good job of addressing their needs early with players that I think are going to be able to help them immediately, which is really like whenever I'm looking at draft classes, I care about your first 3 rounds because everybody after that, the expectation's low. Maybe someone pops. Yeah, so really like them. I also do like that they took Nussmeier in round 7 because I liked him probably more than I should have, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, you sniped me. That would have been my next pick, and I agree. I mean, I think you look at their draft and it had a plan, right? It's all defense early, and this was not a bad defense last year, but they were not the top 10 unit. I think that we've kind of gotten accustomed to, and even if I'm not a huge Delane guy, and I didn't like the trade as much, I do understand why they like him and why he's a fantastic fit in the Spags defense. And you counter that with a guy in Woods who still remained a top 10 player for me. I never wavered on Woods. I still think he's fantastic. And if he's going to be successful, it's in an attacking front. So that's what Kansas City is going to use him at. And then you look at a guy like Jaden Kennedy in the 4th round. I think that's a starting nickel for them. And I think they did a really good job of, even if the guys aren't the highest dude on my board at the time, or maybe the dude I would have picked, they all fit a Spags defense to a T. I think they can step in and contribute for a team, obviously, that's probably going to be competing once Mahomes is back. So I like that plan. And then you mentioned Nussmeier. I'm also a big Nussmeier guy, so you don't have to talk me into it. I understand that he has like injury stuff and he falls, but that's a really nice backup to have as a guy who's coach's son. He's clearly smart, even if he's physically limited. And who knows, maybe he plays the first half of the season when Mahomes is out, and then you can flip him for better than a 7th round pick. Maybe that doesn't happen. I think that's just a worthwhile bet in the 7th round every single time.
Joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdown Substack. We are drafting different teams' draft classes from this year. We are moving on to the 4th round here. Who is your 4th pick?
I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. And I did say I try to stick away from some of these teams with 2 first-round picks, but I thought they just did a really good job. I mean, we talked about downs and, maybe it's not always the value of taking a safety that early. I think for this team specifically, it is absolutely what they need. This defense obviously really struggled last year. Getting a dude who's the glue and the Band-Aid on the back end when he's so smart is something that for this team specifically, I think is a great job to do at 11, especially when you have another first-round pick to use. And maybe Malachi Lawrence is a little bit higher than where I would have taken him. But I think getting him and Jayshawn Barham and just juicing up this pass rush room. Obviously, when you move off of Parsons, you're going to lose some of that pass rush ability. So I think continuing to sink those resources you got from that trade back into that unit is just the right move. And I think you added talent through your first 3 picks that could really juice up a defense that needs it. And then I really like Devin Moore, their 4th round pick, the corner out of Florida. He was a 2nd round player for me. He's had a bunch of injuries, which is why he's going on day 3. But I think that's a dude who could start for them sooner rather than later. So it checks the boxes of, hey, I like picks on all 3 days for you.
Yeah, I didn't. This is my issue with the Cowboys draft. I didn't like that they traded up for a safety. Like if he had fallen to him, cool, which he almost did at 12. He probably would have. I don't think that the Dolphins would have taken him 11. But anyway, they moved up and they grabbed him. The edge rusher that they grabbed out of UCF seems like more of a project than anything with Malachi Lawrence. Yeah, we'll see. I won't lie. Part of it is probably also that I hate the Cowboys. Um, just I'll
So
be
that's
honest.
fair.
I'll be honest. So we'll see. Everyone seems to really like their class. We'll see if it's enough because they're trying to make a push after making that Parsons trade. Would you rather have Parsons or all the guys that they've been able to acquire since making that trade?
Parsons. I've been on the way of just pay the player, especially if you do it early. If you follow how it's supposed to go and you extend a guy early and you don't have these drawn out contracts, you have all the money to pay all the guys you want. We just don't get to this situation. There's no reason that every offseason they should be having contract disputes with their stars and trying to recreate a superstar in the aggregate. Just pay the good player. You did the hard part and just move on.
Completely agree. George Pickens, your time is now, buddy. Again, joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdown Substack. My fourth pick, no one seems to like this draft as much as I do. I'm taking the Jets. I really liked their draft. Like, maybe it's just because they had three first-round picks. Everything I've read, everybody I've talked to, I think I like the David Bailey pick a little bit more than everyone else. I just think he's going to show up and help them immediately. And I think that when you're a franchise that has been irrelevant and bad for as long as the Jets have, that is a very nice thing to bring in. Older player, a little more polished than Arvell Reese is. Like, he's going to line up on the edge immediately. We'll see if he's a double-digit sack guy in year one. We'll kind of see. I love the Kenyon Sadiq pick. I know that they took Mason Taylor last year, but we're seeing more and more teams play with 2 and 3 tight ends. So I don't think that that's really a big deal. Omar Cooper Jr. is my favorite receiver in this draft class. He's not the best one. He's just my personal favorite. And then D'Angelo Pons is going to show up and give a boost to that secondary, replacing Sauce Gardner as well. So I just thought that with their high-value picks, they got guys who are going to be able to help them immediately. And this is a team that needed that because they're just, after trading everybody away last year, tearing it down, I like the direction that they're going in, kind of their first draft after moving some formerly very important pieces.
Yeah, I like the draft too. I'm with you. They were 9th for me when I did like a preemptive list, and I do have some concerns about Bailey at 2. I think I mentioned in my article, but I think this draft is going to be judged on not just how good Bailey is, but how good is Arvell Reese. If David Bailey's a Pro Bowler and Arvell Reese is an All-Pro, people are probably going to look at this class and be like, I don't know if I like it. But with that being said, I like the rest of the picks. You mentioned Pons. I think he's perfect in an Aaron Glenn defense. I'm super excited to watch that. And then Sadiq and Cooper, I think if you flip the order of those two, people like this draft a lot more. I think people got very in their head that it was going to be a guy like Lemon or Cooper at 16, and then Sadiq gets taken, and you're like, that's not that great. But then they end up getting Cooper again in the back of the first round. And I think just how they've created this offense. Now, you have a really good young offensive line. You have a star receiver in Wilson. You have a couple of different slot weapons, Sadiq and Cooper, and then Mason Taylor can be your more traditional wide tight end. They are obviously going with Geno this year. Whatever quarterback they choose to drop in next year is going to have a fantastic infrastructure of different playmakers at different positions, can win at all 3 levels and an offensive line. So even if I don't love the Bailey pick, I probably wouldn't have traded up for Kate Klubnik on day 3. That's not my favorite. I think getting those 2 playmakers in the first round plus Pons is enough for me to say that's 3 top 50 talents that I really like that fit your scheme to make this a good draft class.
Again, joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdown Substack. We are drafting our favorite draft classes from this year. Final round, final pick. Who do you like here?
I am going to go with the New Orleans Saints, which is a team who for years everyone's kind of made fun of their team building. And over the past 2, I have just really liked everything they've done. I think particularly with this class, they have created a structure now where you're going to know if Tyler Shuck's the guy. He looks really good as a rookie. They were obviously missing some stuff. I think this offensive line has really started to come together. It's young. It's talented. You add Travis Etienne. You obviously have Chris Olave, who's an all-pro. Then you plop in Jordan Tyson, whose play style perfectly complements Olave's more vertical game, winning over the intermediate level of the field. I was higher on Delp than a lot of people. I still think this is a starting tight end in this league, even if the production is 300 yards or less a year at Georgia. I'm kind of willing to wave that away. And then I like the dart throw of Lance on day 3 to get some just more vertical juice in this offense. Really see what Shuck can do, pushing it down the field. And even if it's maybe not the star-studded talent-wise of some of these other guys, like a draft like Miami, where they just have so many picks, I think for a team that basically just had to pick a natural spot every single round, they have done about as good as a job heading into year 2 of the Shuck era and doing the best thing you can do is figure out how good is this quarterback. And I think they've set themselves up in a perfect way to figure that out.
I agree. I love Oscar Delp. He was one of my favorite players to watch last year. And you talk about the lack of receiving production at Georgia. So there's a guy, his name is Max Toscano. He has a Substack called Remember the Tight End. And whenever I have a take on a tight end, I text him first because I'm just like, man, am I off base here? They kept him in the block so many times on passing downs, whether that was the chip. And so I don't think it was he can't be a great receiver. It was, we need him to do something else. And so I really like him. I'm with you. I freaking loved him coming out of Georgia. They had a really good class as well. My one concern is like Jordan Tyson, does he stay healthy? But if he does, then I think that you're right in terms of we're going to get a really good glimpse at Tyler Shuck this year and kind of whether or not he can really be their guy. So for my final pick, I was really hoping that you would make it easy on me. I had 2 more written down, and you didn't take either one of them. How did I order it? Let me just go back to my order. Yep, that's how I ordered it. I'm going to take the Colts. And that's not me like pandering either. My other option that I had written down was Miami. And with Miami, I kind of felt like I was cheating a little bit because two first-round picks. They also had half of the picks in the draft. And so, like, you're going to land good players just when you have that many picks. But, like, real quick on the Dolphins, like Kyle Lewis in round 4, I thought was a great pick. I thought that was a guy who could have gone in round 3. Chris Bell, if he comes back healthy, I think is going to be just electric for them in the passing game. We'll kind of see how he looks. I know the Caleb Douglas pick was fine. Wasn't a fan of that one, but like Jacob Rodriguez, really loved that pick. The Chris Johnson pick as well. Proctor, it's a risky pick. We'll see if he commits the way he needs to. But with the Colts, it's an easy plug and play thing where I can look at their draft class and be like, okay, because this is a regime that needs to win right now. I think that's part of why they drafted the way that they did. And because of that, it's like this is a draft class that I think is going to help them accomplish winning right now. And when that's your goal and your draft class allows you to do that, I think I have to like that a little bit more. So I'll take the Colts with my final pick.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting decision between the two because they're the exact opposite draft-wise. You have the young team that's 3 years away, just throwing a bunch of dart throws. And I think echoing a lot of your stuff with Miami. I didn't love all their picks. Like Proctor wasn't my favorite. The Caleb Douglas one's a little high. I wasn't a big Jacob Rodriguez guy, but Chris Bell, Kyle Lewis, Chris Johnson, and you pick like 14 dudes. I think it's a little easier to wave away some of your bad picks if you have so many. And even with a guy like Proctor, even if I don't like him very much, you're not a good team. Take a swing on the freak tackle and maybe it works out. So they would have been my next team. But I do think it's funny compared to the Colts too, right? Because you basically have 2 picks you're grading off of. And I like both picks. So it kind of boils down to like, how do you want to evaluate draft classes when you do grades? One player for the Colts that we haven't mentioned that I was shocked that he went in round 7 was Deion Burks, the wide receiver out of Oklahoma. He's tiny. I understand. He is a very, very small player. He moves different, and I love his attitude. There were some reps of him blocking dudes where he very easily could not been involved in play, and he's trying to bury them. He doesn't because he's 5'9", 180 pounds, but he gives really good effort. I think he's a good separator. I get why he went on day 3, but I thought there were worse players of that similar archetype that went multiple rounds ahead of him that I didn't really understand. I don't know if he'll turn into anything other than like a nice rotation player, but I think that's probably the player outside of the top 2 guys in the Colts class that I have my eye on the most.
I agree. This is going to sound weird. He's who I want to be. I had a conversation with my brother 2 days ago, and I basically just made this comment of like, yeah, like I like to be able to dunk a basketball before the end of the year. And his response was, Jonathan, you're a 5'8", Caucasian. Probably not gonna happen for you. And Dion Burks is like jumping 42 and a half inches at 5'9" and benching 225 for like 26 reps.
Just
Like
a
you
crazy
said,
athlete.
crazy athlete. And when you're in the 7th round, like why not, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
I'm with you, Kevin. Thank you so much for taking like 30 minutes with us. I really appreciate it, man. What other articles do you have coming out this week?
Well, doing wrap up here, I usually do some stuff on the Niners class because people don't know I'm a Niners fan. So I'm probably going to write on Dijon Stripling, their early second round pick, because that was a hotly contested thing. And I actually didn't even get to watch him in the draft process. It was that much of a surprise. So I got to dive into him, and I'll put together something for that. And then he'll probably be taking a break for a little bit. And then in the summer, start pushing into next year's class, which is supposed to be pretty star studded. So around May to June, we'll start rolling out next year's content.
When you're done with your evaluation of Arch Manning, let me know, and I would like to have you on because I have a lot of thoughts. So let me know. Kevin, thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Always. That is Kevin Potts. You can read his stuff over at Kevin Potts, NFL and NFL Draft Substack. If you just type in Kevin Potts, NFL and NFL Draft Breakdowns.com, it should pop up. Quick break, and then we will wrap up the show. Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. We are wrapping it up. Went a little long there with the one and only Kevin Potts. My plan, I'm going to go home. I'm going to run a couple miles. My wife texted me earlier and asked me what was for dinner tonight, and I said MCL Cafeteria. I will let you know tomorrow if that's where we end up. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on X and follow the station on X as well at Ticket 1430. We will talk to you tomorrow starting at noon. See ya.